Beautiful waking dreams and epic nightmares. A Datura trip report by Hunter-Gatherer, posted to earbud.org February 22nd, 2025. I personally have had much success with Datura. I love the plant and its effects dearly. It feels like a waking dream and does enjoyably absurd things to me. It has much potential as a tool for adventure and artistic creation, at least in my personal case. I'm a junior music major in college, and my life is very much about music. I love the earth, and my passions are surfing, critical thinking, adventuring, tree climbing, romance, etc. I only came to know and love drugs, mostly psychedelics and dreaming herbs, about a year ago. Cannabis opened my mind to the world of altered consciousness and other things. I've since done 2CE, LSA, LSD, Freebase and Yopo DMT, Amanita, dreaming herbs, Ambien, nitrous, and combinations thereof. I started noticing my practice of drugs was much more shamanistic and curious. I felt empowered to try Datura for myself. I bought about 120 Datura Metal Fastuosa triple purple seeds online. I've read Metal has a higher proportion of scopolamine than other species, which is good for recreational purposes. It was my first experience gardening, but I poured much labour and time into them throughout the summer, and some plants grew to over 6 feet in only a few months. They had tons of sun and water in well-draining soil. The flowers smell beyond beautiful. I truly enjoyed and loved my plants throughout, and they seemed to love my care, judging from their absurd fruitfulness. One fall day, I collected pods and yielded 10,000 mature seeds. I dried them, mixed them, and stored them as a surplus of Datura for years to come. By the time I was experimenting, I felt the plant, and I had a very tight, warm, and trusting bond. I dried leaves and flowers as well, and I played with very small progressive doses in different ways for months to feel it out. Confident and careful, I ingested 20 seeds, a quarter tab of acid, and some whiskey this Halloween, which is filled with energy, people, and costumes on my college campus. Other than epic dry mouth, I had the time of my life dressed as Tarzan and having countless glowing interactions. So much love, but far from delirious. A month later was the day. I'd just broken my fibula and was casted, so I could comfortably move around my house but surely nowhere else, which seemed safe for even full-blown delirium, my intention. Away from my usual seed hoard, I pulled a not quite mature fruit from my plants. I had a light dinner at about 9 PM and went to my room, which I share with my younger brother, Daniel. Thinking he'd sleep on the couch that night, I started to eat the white seeds in increments of 20 at about 10 PM. I would gauge how I felt every 10 to 15 minutes, mostly by thirst, and then eat another 20, until I'd had 120 by before 11 PM, and felt I'd hit the perfect dose. I started out playing video games, very uncommon, with Daniel, while waiting for him to go upstairs to sleep. At about 11 PM he told me he was sleeping there, and I told him I was about to be Datura-tarded. He said, whatever. While hanging, I would say things to him he didn't understand, or go on tangents about nonsense but in clear speech. He didn't understand how gone I was, and kept being like, seriously, what are you talking about? I eventually started talking to imagined persons and friends and incorporating my brother into the conversation, which truly baffled him, yet I just thought, Daniel must be confused because he tuned out, and not that I'd done anything strange. He went to sleep soon, and I was feeling pretty out of it. Walking on crutches felt very drunk, and space and time felt funny. The atmosphere just feels weird, and thirst is outrageous. But I'd felt all this before in experimenting. Every object and view starts to be very intriguing and speaks something, but I can't decipher what. and it's totally okay and super enjoyable in my stupor. Things don't move, but still get animated, and there's a stagnant yet buzzing energy to everything, which fills me with a childish curiosity. After video games, some moving around, and some water, I decided to play bass guitar. After a few false starts, I recorded an unbroken stream of 45 minutes, some of the most beautiful I've ever produced on any instrument. It was absolutely emotional and enveloping playing it, and I love the recording still. The state opens up creative possibilities in a beautiful, truthful, hyper-focused way that seems almost opposite what I'd expect from delirium. The sounds and ideas come from somewhere else, and I did many things I'd never done before on that instrument. After letting the final note ring, I slowly drank lots of water and moved around. Coming back from the bathroom, I caught a glimpse in the mirror. My reflection looked normal, but felt humorous and dark, very dead and very alive at once. I can't remember what I did next. I think I laid in bed and listened to music for a bit. My thoughts were strange and scrambled, and I knew I had done Datura and was weighing its effects. My body started to feel very strange, neither enjoyable nor bad. I was too awake to sleep. Regardless, I had some visions, dreams, and conversations in my mind with myself and others. The setting would change, and I'd be with close friends in a dorm room in the woods, wherever, and friends would come and go. When they appeared, I wouldn't even say hello, I'd just be glad to see them and get straight into conversation. When they'd disappear, it was totally fine, no worries. I woke Daniel up multiple times, but he sleep talks, so we just mumbled at each other before he passed back out. Never questioning this, I eventually got up and went outside for a bit. Walking was a bit easier. The night was nice and I felt soberish, but wasn't. I sang to myself in the night for a bit before peeing and heading inside. The dark hallway was weird upon returning. My house felt mysterious and like it was watching me. I went upstairs for food, with my mother asleep on the couch near the kitchen. If she'd been awake and spoken to me, I'd have been fucked. But it was alright, and I soon went back downstairs. I'm not sure when these next 3 events happened. After the bathroom, I saw my reflection again, but did not recognise it. I took interest in the man in the mirror and talked to him instead. I thought we were connecting, but it soon seemed he was mocking me. I talked for a long while before I realised it was a mirror. I recognised it was a mirror because of its location in my room, not my reflection. I simply found it curious, not frightening at all, and returned to whatever. Second event. One specific dream I had involved a friend appearing in my consciousness. She was hiding behind things jokingly and laughing, and I thought it was quite a fun game. I would laugh and say, "I see you, silly," and such. She soon started hiding behind things in my actual room and other places into which we warped, and the game continued until Daniel butted in. She disappeared and I just figured she'd won hide and seek, and I was happy for her. Third event. I was on the floor and my older brother Nathan was suddenly in Daniel's bed trying to sleep there. Daniel was hiding behind a shelf in the room, and I was once again cheerfully like, "You can't hide yourself, silly." I would talk to this shelf Daniel until actual Daniel angrily and drowsily spoke from his bed, but I just perceived that person to be Nathan. "Nathan, get out of Daniel's bed, you dummy. Why are you trying to sleep here?" Received a response of, "What the fuck, Nathan's not even in here." I didn't believe, and I would talk to Shelf Daniel about how weird Nathan was acting. Deciding to lay down and sleep, I see some weird shit. Visuals and a trippy pressure happening in my brain, both physically and with my cognitive processes. It's an awesome headspace to be in. There's also some passionate, positive sexual energy, but not the kind to physically act on. The visuals can be enjoyably dark and obscure, and sometimes very clear. I vaped a little weed, but didn't recognise any shift in perception. I fell asleep eventually, and the scariest thing ever happened to me. My dad came in the room while I was asleep, and was yelling for me to get up because he knew my secret, and I was in deep shit. My dad's never mad, but he was outraged, and I knew that the room smelled somewhat of weed. I felt horror as I realised my parents would know I do drugs, and I was absolutely fucked. I felt helpless, ashamed, and terrified. My dad eventually slammed the door and stormed off, and I knew Daniel was quietly there for all of it. The next day, there was no hangover in the traditional sense. I woke up and my first thoughts were, man, that was so amazing, it went so well, and now I'm done tripping. My body felt great, my brain was working, I was motivated, etc. I thought the day was just glowing and happy, but soon realised my vision had an intense yellow tint. It was actually quite beautiful and evoked feelings of happiness, warmth, sunlight, and clarity in everything I looked at. My vision felt particularly sharp at first. I later tried to read texts and focus on letters and images, and I realised my vision was super whack. Text looks like it's in a majestic cursive font, but mirrored and layered over itself infinitely, and each iteration is a different colour. I can't read for shit, but it was actually very pretty and meaningful to look at. Some objects were pretty blurry, and my eyes were slightly dilated. I particularly loved looking at my bass strings, which looked like a red, green and blue string for each one, creating a massive blurry yet defined string, both vibrating and very fixed at once. I had a conversation with Daniel at 11 AM, in which I was worried it was super late and that I'd lost track of time. I understood it was 11 something, but was super confused about everything he was saying, and he was confused by my responses until he said, "Dude, it's 11 AM. I then realised I was actually still tripping a bit. Soon after this, I asked my dad if he'd come into my room and yelled at me last night, but he said he hadn't. Later, I was doing some computer work on my floor when suddenly my mum came into the room. Her presence just kinda glided through the door and into a pile of clothes in my room, and even though I never physically saw her, I followed her movements of my eyes and didn't question at all that it was her. I thought she was hiding in my clothes pile, and I calmly just said, "Hey, Mum, I can see you. I'm kinda busy now, but I know you're there. Oh well, I guess you can chill." She stayed for a while, and I talked to her intermittently, until I realised she was never there. The realisation that I thought my adult mother was hiding quietly within a small pile of clothes on my floor kinda scared me. Damn, would I mildly trip like this all day? But lo and behold, that was the last of the weirdness. The way things morphed and progressed was like a deep psychedelic dream. I thoroughly enjoyed my night and got a beautiful piece of music out of it. I will do it again with caution. Were I to never do the drug again, I would still grow them, as they are beautiful and feel strangely alive. The only horror I experienced with this drug was an epic and extended nightmare with Datura as a key theme. Now that was heavy. A few normal weeks later, I arrived home for winter break, just today. I finished writing a paper, submitted it at 3 PM, and napped completely sober at 4 PM. I had the most extended and hellish nightmare of my life, waking up at 7 PM to still be trapped in terror. I can't capture here and explain how weird, amorphous, alien, and dreamy the whole thing was. Feelings of space, time, and self were so cloudy and just fucked up throughout. I survived, but I was shaken because even the sober reality portion convinced me I was still in perdition. Why did this happen, and would it happen again? I've done drugs before in my dreams, but they're always just weird, fun, and trippy, not accurate to real-life effects. But so many parts of this dream felt like my Datura experience, but evil, especially the vision. I'm still wondering whether there is actual residual Datura in my brain. Is it out, and my brain just knows the pathways of it more clearly than any real drug I do in both dreams and reality? Or is it still chemically there and fucking with me? And weeks after this trip, preceded by normalness, why now? And why so extreme? Is this plant truly evil? Able to telecommunicate delirium and nightmare? It's a stretch, and I'm normally not this superstitious. But this was as truly a fucked up, legit, timeless bad trip through circles of delirium and a continuing, seamless fabric of nightmare and frightened reality. It's probably all coincidence, but it's alarmingly close to real Datura accounts. The plants are still outside my house, now skeletons in the cold. Anyway, thanks for reading. peace, and love.